It started as a flicker of doubt, the kind you could easily brush off if you didn't let it grow. But I let it grow. James had been acting differently for weeks. Nothing obvious, just small, almost imperceptible changes. He'd started staying later at work, his phone buzzing more often than usual, and his replies to my questions felt distracted. He wasn't being rude, exactly, but it was as if part of him was elsewhere. "Do you think I'm imagining things?" I asked Chloe one afternoon over coffee. She tilted her head, considering my question. "I don't know, Anna. Has he given you a reason to worry?" I shook my head. "Not really. He's not hiding anything, at least not openly. It's just a feeling, you know." Chloe gave me a sympathetic smile. "Maybe it's just a rough patch. You guys have been together a long time. These things happen." I nodded, trying to take her words to heart, but the unease didn't go away. That night, as I lay in bed watching James scroll through his phone, the flicker of doubt turned into something darker. He noticed me looking and turned the screen away slightly, an innocent gesture that felt like a slap. "What's wrong?" he asked, his tone casual. "Nothing," I said, forcing a smile. But it wasn't nothing. My mind was already racing. What is he looking at? Who is he talking to? The next morning, while James was in the shower, I saw his phone sitting on the nightstand. For a moment, I just stared at it, my heart pounding in my chest. I knew this was a line I wasn't supposed to cross, a boundary I'd always believed in. But the doubt, the questions, the tiny changes in his behavior, they were too much. Before I could stop myself, I grabbed his phone. It wasn't locked. That small detail made my stomach churn. Shouldn't he have something to protect? I scrolled quickly, my hands trembling, not even sure what I was looking for. His recent messages were innocuous, full of mundane exchanges with coworkers and friends. His emails were the same, work-related, nothing unusual. But then I opened his photo gallery. Most of it was what I expected. Pictures of us, our friends, random snapshots from his day. But tucked between a photo of his coffee cup and a screenshot of a funny meme was a picture that made my breath catch. It wasn't scandalous. In fact, it seemed harmless on the surface. A photo of a woman at what looked like a work event. She was smiling, mid-laugh, her hand resting lightly on James's arm. I knew this woman. Her name was Rachel, one of James's co-workers he'd mentioned a few times in passing. He'd never spoken about her much, and yet here she was, saved in his gallery. The image shouldn't have meant anything, but it felt like a spark igniting a fire in my chest. Why would he save this? When James came out of the bathroom, towel draped over his shoulders, I quickly put his phone back. He didn't seem to notice. "You okay?" he asked, running a hand through his damp hair. I nodded, forcing a smile, but inside, I felt like I'd just opened a door I couldn't close. For the rest of the day, I couldn't stop thinking about that photo. It played on a loop in my mind. Rachel's bright smile, her hand on James's arm, the easy familiarity in their posture. I told myself it didn't mean anything. It was probably just a casual moment he captured during a work event. But if that were true, why did he save it? James went about his day as if nothing was wrong, completely unaware of the storm brewing in my head. He kissed me goodbye on his way to work, his touch light and fleeting. Normally, I would have smiled, told him to have a good day. But all I could muster was a distracted bye. By the time Chloe and I met for lunch, I was practically bursting to tell someone. "So, I did something bad," I admitted, pushing my salad around with a fork. Chloe raised an eyebrow. "Bad how?" "I went through James's phone," I said, the words tumbling out in a rush. Her eyes widened. "You what? Anna, I thought you said you'd never do that." "I know," I said quickly, "but I couldn't help it. He's been acting so weird lately, and I needed to know." She leaned forward, lowering her voice. "And? Did you find anything?" I hesitated, then nodded. There was a picture of one of his coworkers. It wasn't anything explicit, but it felt off, you know, like, why would he save a photo of her? Chloe frowned, her expression cautious. It could mean nothing. Maybe she sent it to him, or he thought it was funny. Did you ask him about it? No, I said, shaking my head. What am I supposed to say? Hey, I invaded your privacy and found this picture. Care to explain? You've got a point, she admitted. But if it's bothering you this much, you need to talk to him. Otherwise, it's just going to eat away at you. Her words stuck with me as I went home, but I couldn't bring myself to confront James. Instead, I watched him carefully that evening, searching for any sign of guilt or deception. He was the same as always, kind, attentive, cracking jokes about the bad movie we decided to watch. But every time he looked at his phone, my chest tightened. Was he texting Rachel? Laughing at her jokes? Looking at that photo? The tension came to a head a few nights later. We were sitting on the couch when his phone buzzed. He picked it up, his face lighting up at whatever he saw. "Who's that?" I blurted out before I could stop myself. He glanced at me, surprised. "Just a work thing. Why?" "No reason," I said quickly, but the suspicion in my voice was clear. He frowned, setting his phone down. "Anna, what's going on? You've been acting strange lately?" "Me?" I said, laughing nervously. "You're the one who's always glued to your phone these days." His brow furrowed, and I could see him trying to piece things together. "Are you jealous?" The question caught me off guard. "No," I said too quickly. Forget it. It's not important." But it was important. The photo, his behavior, my growing paranoia. It was all building to something I couldn't control. That night, as he slept beside me, I found myself staring at the ceiling, torn between guilt and suspicion. I knew I should trust him, that what I'd done was a betrayal of his privacy. But I couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to the story. And the worst part? I didn't know if I was ready to find out the truth. The tension between James and me grew unbearable over the next week. He wasn't oblivious to my unease. Every time he caught me staring too long or brushing off his questions, I could see the confusion and frustration building in his eyes. It all came to a head one Friday evening. James had just gotten home from work, and I was in the kitchen pretending to tidy up, my thoughts racing. I couldn't keep avoiding this. If I didn't ask him about the photo, it would drive me insane. "Hey," he said, walking in and setting his keys on the counter. "What's for dinner?" I hesitated, gripping the edge of the counter. "I don't know. I haven't decided yet." He gave me a curious look. "You okay?" I nodded, but the words slipped out before I could stop them. "Actually, no. I need to talk to you about something." James leaned against the counter, his face shifting to concern. "What's going on?" I took a deep breath, my hands trembling. "I went through your phone," I said, my voice barely above a whisper. His eyes widened, and for a moment the room felt completely still. "You..." "What?" "I know it was wrong," I said quickly, rushing to explain. "I shouldn't have done it, but I've been feeling like something's off lately and I couldn't ignore it anymore." James's expression hardened, his concern replaced by something colder. "You invaded my privacy?" "I know how it sounds," I said, pleading with my eyes. "But I was worried, James. You've been acting different, distant, and I didn't know how else to find out what was going on." He crossed his arms, his voice sharp. "And? Did you find what you were looking for?" I swallowed hard. "There was a photo," I said quietly, "of Rachel." He blinked, taken aback. "Rachel? My coworker?" "Yes," I said, my voice shaking. "Why do you have a picture of her saved on your phone?" James ran a hand through his hair, his frustration palpable. "It was from a work event. She asked me to take a picture, and I saved it because I was using my phone." "That's it, Anna. It didn't mean anything." "Then why didn't you delete it?" I demanded, the words coming out louder than I intended. "Because I forgot it was there," he snapped. "Do you honestly think I'm hiding some grand secret from you? That I'd risk everything for a stupid picture?" His words hung in the air, the weight of them pressing down on me. "I don't know," I admitted, tears welling up in my eyes. I've been feeling like you're not here anymore, like you're somewhere else, and I'm losing you." James's expression softened slightly, but his tone remained firm. Anna, do you know how it feels to know you don't trust me? To know you went behind my back instead of talking to me? I looked down, shame flooding through me. I'm sorry, I whispered. He sighed, leaning against the counter. I get it, okay? I get that you were feeling insecure. But instead of coming to me, you broke my trust. And now I'm the one who has to prove I'm not doing anything wrong. I wiped at my eyes, guilt and frustration battling inside me. I didn't mean to hurt you. I didn't know how to talk about it. Well, you need to figure it out, he said quietly. Because I can't fix this for you, Anna. You have to decide if you trust me or not. His words stung because I knew he was right. I had let my fears and insecurities dictate my actions, and now I was left to deal with the fallout. That night, James slept in the guest room. The emptiness in our bed was suffocating, a stark reminder of the distance I had created between us. As I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, I wondered if I had done irreparable damage, or if there was still a way back. The morning after our argument, the house was uncomfortably quiet. James emerged from the guest room, already dressed for work. He avoided eye contact as he grabbed his coffee, muttering a stiff, "Good morning," before heading out the door. The sound of his car pulling out of the driveway left a hollow ache in my chest. I'd wanted answers, but now I was left with an even bigger question. Had I ruined everything by crossing a line I'd sworn I never would? The next few days were a painful dance around each other. James was polite but distant, his usual warmth replaced with an unnerving coolness. He still asked if I wanted dinner or tea, still folded the laundry as if nothing had changed. But it was the way he moved through the house, like a stranger occupying a space that was no longer his home, that hurt the most. I tried to bridge the gap, to make things feel normal again. I cooked his favorite meals, asked about his day, even suggested we watch a movie together one night. I'm tired, he said simply, retreating to the bedroom without another word. Each rejection felt like a blow, but I couldn't blame him. I had broken his trust, and now he was retreating behind walls I didn't know how to scale. One evening, I sat at the kitchen table scrolling through my phone, trying to distract myself. A notification popped up, a new photo posted by Rachel. Against my better judgment, I clicked on it. It was a picture of her at another work event, laughing with a group of colleagues. James wasn't in the frame, but my stomach twisted anyway. Seeing her so carefree, completely unaware of the turmoil her name had caused in my marriage, felt like salt in the wound. I closed the app and put my phone down, pressing my palms against my eyes. This wasn't her fault. It wasn't even James's fault. It was mine. I'd let my insecurities spiral into something that now threatened to unravel everything we'd built together. The next night, I decided to try again. When James came home, I was waiting for him in the living room, a cup of tea in hand. "Can we talk?" I asked, my voice trembling. He hesitated, then nodded, sitting down across from me. "James, I know I've hurt you," I began, my words spilling out in a rush. "And I'm so sorry. I let my fears get the better of me and I didn't come to you when I should have. Instead, I went behind your back and I betrayed your trust." He looked at me, his expression unreadable. "Why, Anna, why didn't you just talk to me?" "I don't know," I admitted, tears welling up. "I guess I was scared. Scared that if I asked the wrong question, I'd get the answer I was afraid of." James sighed, leaning forward with his elbows on his knees. "Do you really think so little of me? That I'd do something to hurt you like that?" "No," I said quickly. "I don't. But I guess I thought so little of myself. I've been feeling insecure, like I'm not enough. And instead of dealing with that, I put it on you. That wasn't fair." His shoulders sagged slightly, the tension in his posture softening. "I hate that you felt that way," he said quietly. "But what you did, it hurt, Anna. It's not just about the picture, it's about trust. If we don't have that, what do we have?" His words cut deep because I knew he was right. Trust was the foundation of our relationship, and I had cracked it with my own hands. "I don't know how to fix this," I said, my voice breaking. "But I want to try. I'll do whatever it takes to rebuild what I broke. James looked at me for a long moment, then nodded slowly. "It's not going to be easy," he said. "But if you're willing to put in the work, so am I." Relief flooded through me, but it was tempered by the understanding that this was just the beginning. Trust doesn't rebuild itself overnight. It would take time, effort, and honesty, things I hadn't given enough of lately. That night, as we sat in the quiet of the living room, I felt the first glimmer of hope. We were broken, yes, but maybe not beyond repair. Rebuilding trust wasn't as simple as I hoped it would be. In the days that followed our conversation, the tension between James and me remained, but it was different this time. The distance wasn't about anger anymore. It was about caution. I started small, doing the things I should have done from the beginning. I asked James about his day and really listened to his answers. I resisted the urge to read into every text or glance at his phone. When the paranoia crept in, I reminded myself of his words. If we don't have trust, what do we have? One evening, I caught James sitting at the dining table scrolling through his phone with a focused expression. My heart raced, the old doubts clawing at my resolve. But instead of letting them fester, I spoke up. "What's got you so focused?" I asked, forcing a casual tone. He glanced up, surprised. "Oh, just planning something for work." "Anything exciting?" He hesitated, then smiled faintly. "Actually, yeah, there's a conference coming up and they asked me to present." "That's amazing," I said, my voice genuine. For the first time in weeks, I saw his shoulders relax. "Thanks. I was going to tell you earlier, but I wasn't sure if you'd care." His words stung, but I understood why he said them. "I do care," I said softly. "I want to know what's going on in your life, James. I know I haven't shown it enough, but I do." He nodded, his expression thoughtful. "I want to believe that." That night, as we sat on the couch watching a show, James reached over and took my hand. It was a small gesture, but it felt monumental, a signal that, despite everything, he still wanted to try. Weeks turned into months, and while things weren't perfect, they were improving. James began to open up more, sharing stories about his day and even laughing at my jokes again. I worked hard to show him that I trusted him, that I was committed to repairing what I'd broken. But the guilt didn't disappear entirely. One night, as we were getting ready for bed, I finally brought it up. "James," I said hesitantly, "do you think you'll ever fully trust me again?" He looked at me, his expression serious but kind. "I don't know," he admitted. "Trust takes time, Anna, but I do know that I'm willing to keep trying as long as you are." His honesty, though bittersweet, gave me hope. Trust wouldn't come back overnight, but it was something we could rebuild together. As I climbed into bed that night, I realized that this wasn't just about James forgiving me. It was about me forgiving myself too. What I'd done was wrong, but it didn't have to define us. We were both willing to fight for our relationship, and that was what mattered most. For the first time in a long time, I felt like we might actually make it.